and coming back to Bozeman. So here's Kane Ioane. This is from, I think, the second week of March. So you'll hear questions here from Brooks Nuanez, SkylineSportsMT.com, as well as Paul Schwelson, Bozeman Daily Chronicle, Colton Poole, Bozeman Daily Chronicle, and Greg Rakoch, Billings Gazette. Here's Kane Ioane, his press conference debut at Montana State during Montana State spring football.
So first off, it's been awesome being back. The familiarity of Bozeman, Montana, the whole state itself, the support that myself and my family has received since word got out that we were back. It's been amazing. But obviously I anticipated that, Montana is Montana. The people here are amazing, and they love their football, and they follow this place in particular extremely well and know everything that's going on all the time. But no, it was an awesome welcoming back, and it's been a whirlwind of a transition, but the familiarity has made it that much easier. My wife has made life a lot easier in a lot of different ways as far as taking care of everything outside of the football realm. Within the football realm, it's been right from getting back from the Rose Bowl to, hey, here's this opportunity, to now get on the road recruiting again for Montana State, which was an experience in itself, putting the blue and gold back on and getting into the homes and trying to sell this place all over again, which was a lot of fun. And then getting back here and getting reacquainted with the players, just getting an opportunity to actually recruit the guys that are here on campus. So, I mean, it's just been one thing after another. And then for us as defensive staff, just getting reacquainted with ourselves and getting a chance to get in the meeting room, watch some film, kind of process or go through that process of, okay, what is it that we can improve on? Where are some things that we need to get after it right now and start working on? And here are some things that I want to implement. I mean, it was just one thing after another. But fortunately, Coach Choate has done a tremendous job as far as building the culture of this place. And so there's a lot of things that we don't have to do. And there's a lot of things that have already been in place here that have been awesome. And it's been awesome to see, having been away for 2 years, to come back and see where this place is. It's been it's not a surprise, because I knew leaving here where Coach Choate and his staff was going to do with this place. So it's been fun to be able to see kind of the results that have come throughout these last 3 seasons here. And so our goal as a defensive staff is just to build upon the success that we've had here on the defensive side of the ball. Daily to the staff, the All-American linebacker, to put him into the linebacking room and allow him to just do his thing, and also to bring ideas and concepts to the table as far as the schematic part of things. It has been a lot of fun. So to sum it all up, this whole process, or this whole transition, it's been a process, but it's been a fun process that I've truly enjoyed, and I've had a lot of help along the way to help it go as smooth as possible up to this point. But I'm looking forward to actually seeing some results, or seeing some things that we're trying to get evaluated starting spring ball.
What do you think you've learned the last couple of years that that you can maybe bring that maybe you didn't have in your previous time here?
Yeah. No, the 2 years at University of Washington was unbelievable when it comes to just the different perspective, to open your eyes a little bit. I was fortunate to be able to just progressively work my way up here at one school. In this profession, that's not very common. The only thing that does do to you a little bit is it kind of narrows your vision of sorts. And so going to the University of Washington, specifically in the Pac-12 level, and having the success we had, enabled me to see some things that I was not able to see here, as far as just how a truly just culture is built from the ground up. I mean, they got there 4 years prior to that from Boise State, and had to really implement their culture and really watch how that grew into what it is now, the culture, the championship culture that they have there now. To be a part of those last couple of years was amazing, to watch that culture really go to work every Saturday. And it just opens your eyes to so many different ways in which you can do things, not only on the defensive side of the ball, but just as a program as a whole. Just so many small little details that, because you're so close to it here all the time, you don't see it. But when you're able to step back a little bit and see it from a different perspective, as I was, you were really able to see just the small little details that it takes to be a successful program.
Where do you think the main improvements are going to need to be made on defense? Because they played pretty well the last 3 years.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm very fortunate that we do have a very good foundation as far as the defensive side of the ball is concerned. But as I alluded to earlier, just there's small little details that we can continuously improve upon. And that is going to help us be better on third downs. That's going to help us in certain situations as far as the run game, not giving up big explosive runs there, just really alleviating big plays in general by taking care of some of the small little details, just technique things, some just what we call pre-snap success as far as alignments, where my keys, where my eyes are, just small little details that we're going to fine-tune in order for us to take that next step to where we were a really good defense, we want to be a great defense, and in turn be a great team.
How unique was it linking back up with Coach Kwiatkowski and as well as Coach Peterson and kind of being in the same family?
Yeah.
How unique and kind of comforting was that going and making that big jump?
Yeah. No, that was what was really made the transition so easy for me going up to that level was the culture that Coach Choate has built here and established here over the course of his time. Really, it got its start from Coach Peterson because he had obviously been with Coach Pete for so long. And so a lot of what we were trying to implement here in 2016 was very similar to what they had and tried to implement at University of Washington. Not try, but had now been successful after their first couple of years. And so it was fun to kind of step into that program and kind of see where Coach Choate wants to get this place and see almost the end result. They're still, I mean, it's a constant everyday challenge as far as the culture is concerned. But they had got it to a very good place, obviously, at the University of Washington. So it was fun to kind of go from, all right, here's the beginning, to here's what the end result potentially could be as you continue to implement these little things that we're trying to do here. And so, and then the familiarity with the staff, as far as you mentioned, Coach Kwiatkowski, PK was my defensive coordinator here, coached me, and then I had coached with him a couple of years here when I first got going. So that was fun. That was obviously, he was very instrumental in getting me there. And then Coach Lake, Jimmy Lake as well, had been here in 2005, so we had some familiarity there. So that obviously made a very smooth transition and also allowed them to trust me and be like, yeah, we know Kane, we know he's been a coach for a long time. And so they weren't afraid to kind of throw me in the fray and let me go to work.
And the similar question of familiarity, being able to get Bobby, a guy that was so influential in your young career,
yeah.
How were you able to identify him and what did you like about bringing him on?
Yeah, so the great thing about Bobby is that not only was he a great player, and there's almost a stigma out there to where great players don't necessarily make great coaches, right? But with Bobby, I had already seen him work as far as the coaching side of things are concerned. And having been around him as a player and having had a chance to coach him, you saw that side of him already as a player. The way he sees the game and views the game is different from a lot of people. It's different from your everyday normal kid. He always saw the whole picture. And so it was easy for me to just continuously watch him progress. We're starting out in Bozeman High School and him kind of working some of the camps around town and just seeing him work with kids. It was a very easy decision in my mind. And as Coach Choate got to know him as well over the course of the years, I think it was a very easy decision to where when he was available and expressed some interest, it was like, that's a no-brainer. Because not only does he have the pedigree as far as the reputation and the guys can look at him and go, hey, that's an All-American, but he's a teacher, a great teacher, knows the game, and the guys are going to trust him, and he's going to build those relationships as far as the connection is concerned.
What are the possibilities when it comes to having Troy Anderson on defense?
Mm-hmm. That's a head coach decision when it's all said and done. Obviously, we'd love to have him on our side. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But Coach Miller and I are eventually going to get into a room and we're going to just go, whoever leaves the room is going to end up getting Troy on their side of the ball. So we'll probably advertise that, put that out there, maybe make it a fundraiser. It's going to be a heck of a matchup because I know Coach Miller, he's a tough guy. He's got that Montana toughness. He's a good athlete, so I can't out-athlete him. So it's going to be an interesting battle, but you know what? I've got a good scouting report on him. I've been studying him for the last 3 weeks, so I've found some weaknesses. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. But ultimately, when it's all said and done, that's a head coach decision, and we're going to just try and do what's best for Troy and for the team when it comes to what position he plays.
Is this opportunity that you're getting right now a little bit different than 2015, and how do you see it being different?
Yeah, no, there's no question it's different. I'm different, so I greatly appreciated the opportunity that I received in 2015.
I guess I don't want to speak to it, but I don't think you've coached safeties for maybe, I don't know, quite a while.
Yeah.
How exciting is it to get back on that back end and kind of see things from where a lot of you, from a perspective that you played a lot in?
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. It has been a long time. It's been a long time since I've been specifically a secondary coach working in the back end. I want to say it was my first year actually as a student assistant here, and after that spring, I eventually made the move to the linebacker room, which was awesome. Helped me progress and continue to learn a lot of football. But to be back in the back end and to be able to see and coordinate from the back end, it makes it easy in my mind because now I've got a chance to make sure everything goes as I see it. And the back end is the safety position in particular. I love it, and I'm obviously biased, but I feel like the safety should be the quarterbacks of the defense. Bobby would tell you different, and that I want that too. I want the linebackers to feel this and what they do at the University of Washington as far as our secondary is concerned, and implement some things that I want to do as far as techniques and different fundamentals. But I'm excited to be back in the back end working with that group because I feel like you can control the game from the secondary.
There you go. Kane Ioane, defensive coordinator for Montana State. It is Tutel Nuanez, 129 ESPN Missoula, broadcasting to you live, Kurtz Polaris Studios. One more piece of audio here to share with you quickly. Bobby Daly, new linebackers coach for Montana State. He's an All-American back in 2007, 2008, one of the great linebackers ever played at Montana State. Helena Capital native, third-generation Bobcats. Dad, Jay Daly, was captain of the Cats in the 70s. His brother, Brad, Buck Buchanan Award winner. They're Bobcats through and through. Bobby spent the last 6 years at the University of Idaho. Here's what he learned. Bobby Daly.
Kane said, I'm very fortunate and grateful to be back. Been gone for 6 years, and it was a great learning experience. The 6 years that I've been gone, I've been everything from a graduate assistant to director of football operations to coaching the defensive line to coaching linebackers. So I feel like my football IQ has increased a lot since leaving here in Bozeman, but ultimately, Montana's home for me. Having grown up in Helena right down the road, having my parents still there, my sister there, brother living in Billings, it's just, it's great to be back in Montana and around family.
How important is it to get Bobcats back into this program? That's something that Chuck seemed to kind of stress that that's what he wants to do. How cool is it to be able to have Bobcat coaches back in the program?
It's something that's very important to me. Growing up the son of a former Bobcat, I grew up a fan of the Bobcats, and then obviously after I graduated, my brother played here, so followed the program very closely, and then there was a transition in coaching when Coach Choate took over, and I always kept a very close eye on the program. Ultimately my goal when I left was to work my way back in some capacity. So having Choate give me that call and talking about wanting to bring me back with Kane at the same time, was definitely something. It was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up, so I jumped on it, and I think having those people in the program, former Bobcats like myself, like Kane, like Denarius, like Cole Moore, I think we can kind of talk to these kids who are on campus and let them know how much it means to us to be a Bobcat and how much it's going to mean to them after they leave the program. So make their time here count while they're here, but also in recruiting, bringing kids on campus and letting them know, hey, this is a family. And I think having Coach Choate bring guys like myself and Kane back really speaks to the family that we do have going on here and the culture that he's created.
In what ways is it
the same, and in what ways is it different since the last time you've been here, you think?
There's some things that don't change. Some people that have been here ever since I stepped foot in the building, and those are the ride or dies, and they're going to be around probably long after I'm gone. But the facilities have changed significantly since I left. I remember my senior year, we put in field turf, the sprint turf out there for the first time, and that was a big deal for me at the time. It was like, okay, we don't have to worry about plowing the field on game day and it being all mucky and muddy and all that stuff. So that was the first step my senior year, is getting that field turf down. Then you look at what that stadium is right now. It's, without a doubt, one of the top stadiums in the FCS. And, I know we've got big plans to build on that as well. I'm just, curious and I really am interested to see how this program continues to grow with the success that we have.
Brooks Nuanez, Skyline Sports.
Yeah.
What did you learn at Idaho? And what was your experience like at Idaho? And what are some of the biggest things you take away from there?
Yeah, I transitioned from being a high school coach here at Bozeman High, where, I had a day job and I'd show up, around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and I would leave after practice about 6 o'clock. So you're putting in 2 to 3 hour days, and you'd come in on a Sunday and you do some game planning for 4 or 5 hours, and you're just take it and run with it, and it was more about the players at that point at the high school level. And I was kind of curious to see what the life of a coach was all about. And you hear about the long hours that guys work, and you're like, well, I've been doing it for however long, and putting in 3 hour days. What are you going to do with these 14-hour days? And you'd be shocked the amount of football there is to learn once you get in an environment like that. Very fortunate to learn from Coach Petrino, who's really been everywhere, offensive-minded guy, so you get a different perspective on, how he tries to attack defenses, and then got to learn under some great coaches on the defensive side of the ball as well. And you just, Coach Ion talked about the details. That's what I picked up the most on, is the small details that are going to make the difference from being a great defense or being a poor defense. And there's a lot of them that go into it, and everybody's got to know of them, and everybody's got to be dialed in on them as well in order for all these pieces to come together to be a productive defense. So I would say the details more than anything.
I know you mentioned how much you've learned in these last few years.
Yeah.
Can you just kind of put into words, what have you learned in your experiences?
Oh, I mean, I think of football as like a different language. I feel like I've learned a different language, and then you come back to a new staff and you understand terms and terminology and concepts, but you got to put it into different words as well in order to communicate it to the guys and put it in words that they understand. So, I think the big thing that I learned is concepts, as far as, being a 1 high, being a 2 high, how to play in multiple fronts and simplify it for your defense, but make it look as complicated as possible for an offense, So bringing that knowledge back to Montana State is huge. And also, learning from what Kane learned at UW. I think obviously they're a premier program on this side of the country. So taking the things that he's learned, trying to implement some things that I've picked up along the way, and trying to make us the best as possible here at Montana State.
And so what is your relationship like with Kane, and just kind of what's it like working with him?
Well, obviously, it started off as player-coach, and then I stuck around Bozeman for a few years after having graduated, and we actually had some mutual friends. So I think our relationship transitioned to more friendship after having graduated from here, and him and I kept in touch the whole time I was down there at Idaho, and then obviously really keeping a close eye on him when he was up at UW, and then having the opportunity to come back and coach with him. I definitely think that there's that friendship that's the base of our relationship, but also I'm hungry for knowledge, so I pick his brain all the time, like, what did you guys do at UW in this scenario? What did you guys do in this scenario? What did you do in this scenario? And just when you're playing high-quality football like that at a very high level, there's different things that that you can expand on as far as where your knowledge base is in the football realm.
Where do you think the biggest improvements are in terms of the linebackers? I know they were a group that was, banged up at times last year, but
Yeah.
When you look at what you have coming back and some of the additions that you've made, what are your expectations for this group?
Expectations are to be the best, and they always will be, so that's not going to change. But I am, very, very excited for spring ball. I have a group of 13 guys in my room, and, all I've really seen is max lifts and then a little bit of mobility training. So I don't know necessarily what they are as football players. So there's guys that are coming back that have played significant snaps here at Montana State, but at the same time, there's some young guys coming up through the program. There's some new guys as far as junior college guys on campus as well. So I'm excited just to get on the field and watch them play football and see how they're taking what we're learning in the classroom and applying it on the football field, because I feel like we got a smart group of guys. I feel like we got a strong athletic group of guys. Now we need to tie it all together and be productive on the field. So the more I can work with them out there in spring ball, the more it's going to benefit them and me, I believe.
What was your experience like being on the Idaho staff as you guys transitioned back to the FCS?
The scholarship number is the thing that most people bring up, dropping down from 85 to 63 scholarships. So I guess the learning portion of that for me was dealing with only full scholarships at the FBS level. When you offer a kid a scholarship, it's given that it's a full scholarship. Now, in recruiting and, strategically going after kids with good academics can help you. You can get a kid for a full scholarship that doesn't cost you a full scholarship because they're getting academic money. And just being able to piece that thing together as far as, okay, we got 13 guys in the room, 11 of them are on scholarship, but how many of scholarships does that actually take up, as far as, the overall team count? So I think the scholarship portion of things was something, a little bit of a learning curve for me at the time, but I feel like I picked up on that pretty well. But, the Big Sky Conference, to me, everybody talked about the drop down. I knew, having played in the Big Sky Conference, that it's a very competitive conference year in and year out. And for anybody who expected us at Idaho to come in and just be this dominant team, I knew that it was going to be a lot harder than that. And I think it speaks to what kind of football is played in the Big Sky Conference. If I were to compare it to the Sun Belt Conference, there's probably better athletes at that level. But as far as football players, I feel like we got better football players in this conference. And I think that it speaks to, the parity within the league.
And you talk about those partial scholarships. I know that you were a partial or maybe a walk-on coming out of high school.
Yeah.
I know your brother was too. Yeah. How important is that at this level, and how different is that as far as the dynamics of the work ethic and the things that go into that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's walk-ons everywhere, but I think just growing up in Montana is a little bit different, You grow up either a Bobcat fan or a Grizz fan, and you want to be a part of that program that you've grown up liking. So I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to be a part of the program, and it was as a walk-on, but I knew, having looked around the different guys in my class that were being recruited, that were considered scholarship athletes, I grew up playing against these guys my whole life. There was no doubt in my mind I can compete with these individuals. So getting on campus as a walk-on linebacker, there was, I believe, 3 scholarship linebackers in my class, and going through drills and watching them do things, I don't know, I just had a little bit of confidence about me at a young age. I was like, I'm better than this guy, I'm better than this guy, I'm better than this guy. And I just had to get on the field and get the opportunity to prove it. So I know that there's guys in our program right now that are thinking the same thing. And I think, that's how you got to approach it as a walk-on. You have to come in with a chip on your shoulder. And just being a part of the program wasn't enough for me. I wanted to be a player within the program. So I hope we got guys that approach it the same way.
All right.
I'm sure that they will. Montana State linebackers coach Bobby Daly. Great perspective there. You don't just want to be a part of the program, want to make your mark on the program. I'm sure he's got some guys in his linebackers room that'll do that for the Bobcats. We're late. We're always late. On the other side, Sean Rainey. He's got a solution for the NBA draft lottery, or he thinks he does. Sean Rainey, SWX, Montana, NBA draft lottery solutions. It's Tutel Nuanez, 129 ESPN Missoula. Hey, Tutel Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer Tommy is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tutel Nuanez on YouTube.
Tutel Nuanez, live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube.
The Montana Club invites you to stop in for Club Cocktail Hour. Every day from 3 to 6, sip on $5 martinis. Get $1 off all wine and beer, including cool Montana micros. Enjoy $3 off all mouth-watering appetizers, or swing by Friday for It's time to relax at the Montana Club. Real Montana, real food on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get $50 off alignment when you purchase a set of 4 Open Range AT or Reputation tires. Book an appointment today at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time only. See details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
It's time to get geared up for fly fishing season at the Kingfisher's Spring Runoff Sale. From May 11th through the 17th, save up to 30% on in-stock fly rods, waders, boots, reels, flies, and anything else you need to keep catching you fish all season long. Don't see the item you want? No problem. They can special order whatever it is you're after. Snack on coffee and donuts while checking out the latest products from all the top shelf vendors. If your gear closet is looking sparse and your fly selection isn't what you'd like it to be, it's time to load up the Spring Runoff Sale at the Kingfisher.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, 102.9 ESPN Missoula. For the third straight year, Montana State is the champions of the Brawl of the Wild series over the Grizzlies. The Bobcats finished the 2018-19 season with an 11-6 record in the series, a head-to-head competition with the Grizz that accounts for matchups between the two schools that both sports sponsor. Montana State and the Grizz split in volleyball, but the Bobcats swept in men's and women's cross country, earned a third straight win in football, swept in women's basketball, men's tennis, indoor track and field, and golf. The Grizz earned wins in women's tennis, outdoor track and field, and men's basketball. UM won the first 3 Brawl of the Wild trophies beginning in 2013-14, but Montana State has won the last 3. Missoula will host the Montana Class B State Golf Tournament for the first time beginning today. The round probably just finishing up out at the Ranch Club final round tomorrow. Missoula Loyola senior Bucky Crippen is shooting for his second straight Class B title after he became the 4th member of his family to win the state tournament last season. The Ram boys, they're also the favorites to win the team title. And finally, Camden Hillborn is headed home to the capital city. The standout 3-sport athlete from Helena High led the Bengals to state titles in soccer and basketball before playing hoops at Montana State last season. Tuesday, she announced she will transfer to Carroll College to play basketball. Hillborn recently competed in the Big Sky Outdoor Track and Field Championships in the pole vault.
We've got Sean.
I'm so good at this, just unplugging my headphones mid-sentence. Can't hear myself talk, can't hear myself think. That's why I can't be left alone. At least I got Tommy Evans running the board for me. It's Tutel Nuanez, 129 ESPN Missoula, broadcasting to you live. Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, as well as Highway 83 in Sealy. You can also find them at kurtzpolaris.com. Need to hit us up on Twitter. Why not? Got a bunch of Twitter stuff going on SkylineSportsMT.com, as well as at SkylineSportsMT. Rolling out our podcast series, Grizzlies by the Numbers, Bobcats by the Numbers, 3-part series for each of the sides of the rivalry. We break down every single Grizzly, every single Bobcat, 1 through 99 on the roster. So I got the first installments, number 1 through 32 from each team, posted right now. SkylineSportsMT.com. Go check those out. If you want to get a hold of us on the station handle, at 1029 ESPN as well. And if you want to get a hold of us here at the station, 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line, which is where we go right now to welcome in our good buddy Sean Rainey, SWX, and ABC Fox Montana. He thinks he's got something cooking. Rainey's always got solutions. He's got solutions how to fix the officiating in the NBA. He's got solutions how to fix the DH rule in baseball. Now he thinks he's got the solution to fix the NBA draft lottery. Rain Man, how you doing? Where are you at in the world?
Good, man. How you doing? I'm sitting in our edit bay at the station. I just put together the State B golf highlights. Dude, Bucky Crippen shot a 65 at the Ranch Club, which I know that you can only dream of. So
I shoot 65 at the Ranch Club on the front.
Yeah, 14 holes.
Oh man, some of these high school scores, they just kill me because it's just like, man, I'll just never be that good, and that kid's only 17. 65 for Bucky Crippen. That's a great update. Missoula Loyola, he's the defending Class B champion. Did you, John, tell me, I know the MHSA has been lobbying to let spectators on the court to actually watch, but that hasn't passed yet, or has it?
No, you're allowed to go out and watch now. Yeah.
So you actually got some real-life highlights.
Yeah, well, we had to send our photographer. I was on kid duty this morning, but he went out there and shot a few holes. And, yeah, you're allowed to go out and watch for the first time, which is kind of cool, you know, at least, like, for the parents and everything. When I grew up playing in California, like, we couldn't go no, there were no spectators allowed either. And so you're just all off on your own. But now you can go out and watch.
Gotta love it. All right, Ray, man, you were texting me earlier. You were all over Twitter. The NBA Draft Lottery is tonight. The NBA Draft Lottery is different than the other sports. Other sports, baseball, straight up, worst record, you get the number one pick. Football, straight up, worst record, you get the number one pick. In basketball, the teams that don't make the playoffs are entered into a lottery, and every team has varying odds depending on how close or how far away you were from the playoffs. So there's a higher chance you'll get the number one overall pick if you're the worst team, but not a certain chance. There's three teams with the same odds of getting the number one pick, and then subsequently it trickles on down. We have seen, I would say more often than not, during the 35-year of the NBA Draft Lottery, teams that did not have the worst record still get the number one pick, and there's a lot of controversy attached to the NBA Lottery. There's a lot of conspiracy theories that float around the NBA Lottery. First of all, tell us what you think is wrong with the NBA Lottery, and how are you going to fix it?
Well, first off, we got to kind of establish, like, what is the weakness of the NBA as a whole, like as a league? Like, would you say?
I would say the dramatic attitudes of all the players currently, but also just the entitlement of some of the guys. And I think that, there's only a couple teams in the league this year that were bad, even though they were trying. I think that the Mavs and the Hawks tried a certain amount this year, and they both just had really good young players, so they won more games than they probably would have liked. They really weren't in the position to tank. But everybody else now, if you were in the spot where you can tank a Palooza, just go for it. Try to lose as many games as you can.
Exactly. So that's kind of the issue here, is like we have one spectrum where we have 25% of the NBA is literally not even trying to win because they want to put themselves in a good position for the draft, which they should. That is the smart thing to do. If you're the Knicks, you're in a way better position to then become really good than you are the Hornets, who tried to win, won like 30-something games, and now you're stuck in no man's land. But that creates where you have all these really bottom teams that aren't even trying to win, and they are not good, and then you have like the super teams, and you just have this like extremes on each side. The NFL, what we love about the NFL, one of the things is like the parity, and that like it's way more balanced. Any team that makes the playoffs has a chance to win the whole thing, and there's just a lot more balance throughout the league. The way that the NBA is set up, you're encouraged, if you're in the bottom 15, to basically just try and lose to get a pick. So here is my way to fix that. If you don't make the playoffs, all the teams that don't make the playoffs would play a single elimination tournament, and the winner gets the number 1 pick, runner-up gets number 2, and you go down the line from there, with the tiebreaker being most regular season wins. That is my idea. So then you're incentivized to try and be good, because, in my opinion, the Knicks, a lot of people kind of argued that, like, but then the worst teams are being punished. Well, the Knicks aren't the worst team in the NBA. They just were constructed on purpose to be the worst team in the NBA. Those kind of teams, like the Knicks and the Suns, like, they have talent. They could have signed role guys that would have made them good to win like 35 games, but they weren't going to do that, obviously, because why would you do that? So they didn't even try. So I don't think like the whole argument, like the worst teams would just stay worse. Like in the NBA, when it's only 5 dudes, like it's all just like what the front office is like trying to do. So I think it would be super dramatic and entertaining to have a single elimination tournament. It would have an incentive for everybody to try and be as good as you possibly can. And then I think you'd have to, like, you can, sign a TV deal with that tournament, and then all the money from that TV deal you could then give to the current players that would be playing in that, so they're incentivized to win. Like each game, like the winner gets $100,000 or something, each guy on the team or something. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that singularly it's a pretty good idea. I just worry about teams. What happens if you had the exact same team win the tournament for the number 1 pick multiple years in a row?
Well, then
so
they're a middling team. That doesn't get any better.
You tank intentionally to miss the playoffs, but not enough to where you'd be in the mix to get the number 1 pick. But you do it intentionally so that you can then be in the mix for the number 1 pick multiple years in a row. Like if I'm the Mavs right now, I am trying to finish 10th in the West for 3 years in a row so I can pair 3 straight number 1 picks with Luka Doncic and then make a run at the championship.
But, like, I feel like that would be pretty hard to do, though, because you have to, like, I mean, you're going to have to tell your players, like, hey, we're going to go out and try to win, like, 42 games. So go out and win, but don't go out and win too much. Like, I don't think you'd be able to, like, sell that to, like, the team. I think you're either going to try and win or you're not. Like, I think it'd be very hard to, like, to try to tank from, like, 8 to 9. You know what I mean? I also technically, if we were going to do this, I would have only 6 teams in each conference make the playoffs, because I don't think the 7 and 8 seeds ever even have a chance anyways. And so that way, if you have top 6 in each league, you feel if you're top 6, you'd have like a legit chance. And I also think that if they went to this format, I think there would be just a lot more balance throughout the league. So I don't think you would have like only like 1 or 2 super teams that are like the heavy favorites. I think it'd be a lot more balanced, and so you might have like a 4 or 5 seed that could go on a run. I don't know. That's just my thought. I think it'd also be just super entertaining to have a single elimination tournament. But
what have we learned about the NBA though? Is that markets are so important, and it's honestly one of the things that hurts the regular season product of the NBA so bad right now is the fact that the Lakers, the Bulls, and the Knicks are all bad. That hurts the league. But also, though, those teams eventually, if they could ever get any sort of continuity or any sort of leadership in their front offices, they could be back in a big way, because those are going to be free agent destinations. I just wonder, how does a team like the Charlotte Hornets or a team like the New Orleans Pelicans or a team like, I guess Giannis Antetokounmpo is a bad example because he was not the number 1 pick. He was a pick that was in the teens for the Milwaukee Bucks. But the Bucks are a great example of a team that are probably not going to sign a guy like Giannis, but they could draft a guy like Giannis. And I just feel like you can whoever gets Zion Williamson is going to get such an instant shot in the arm just because of the marketability, the star power. And I just wonder, I just feel like you're going to have teams that stay bad forever if you have this current format, because how is that team going to win? I mean, the teams that are got the rising stars like the Mavs. They were going to just capture this title until they then make the playoffs. So I feel like, I guess, what's your argument for teams kind of crawling out of the basement? It seems like this is just going to establish a hierarchy that teams have a hard time breaking through.
Well, I think the Mavs, let's say the Mavs won the tournament this year and they got Zion. Well, then they're going to be making the playoffs next year. So then maybe next year, the Charlotte, they re-sign Kemba to a max deal because they want to stay relevant again instead of letting him go and then just getting rid of all of the cupboards and just trying to suck for 2 years.
That's your best argument. That's your best argument so far.
Yeah, so then they could keep Kemba to stay relevant, be good for all of their fans, and then they could maybe get the 9 or 10 seed, and then maybe they get the first overall pick. Because otherwise, right now, if you're Charlotte, why would they? I wouldn't re-sign Kemba. Why? Only to win 35, 40 games, miss the playoffs, and be stuck in no man's land,
and handcuff yourself because you're paying him so much money too. Exactly,
but you would be able to compete for the number one pick, and then that could put you over the top because you're already a market that's not going to be able to attract a free agent. I think I don't know how it would play out as far as if there's a bottom team like Phoenix or something, how would they get out of the doldrums if they weren't able to get good enough because they might not get a free agent? I don't know. But I think it would, throughout the whole regular season, it would just incentivize winning. The crazy thing that would happen, Coulter, imagine the trade deadline. Because at the trade deadline, you would have bad teams trying to get better because they're trying to make a run to be good enough to try and win the tournament. The trade deadline would be weird. I don't know how what would happen there. And then you might have the 7 or 8 seeds trying to dump a guy to an 11 seed. I don't know. It'd be kind of crazy. I don't know. I just think it would be good.
This specific year would be very interesting because I think the favorites to win your said tournament would be the Sacramento Kings, the Los Angeles Lakers if LeBron James was to get healthy, maybe the Mavs if they were to get something rolling a little bit. And all three of those teams, if they were to win the tournament and then draft Zion, the Kings were a 39-win team this year, which is better than they've been in a long time.
The Kings would be awesome.
And if the Kings drafted Zion Williamson, now they're all of a sudden a top 5 team in the West.
Which then would be entertaining for everybody moving forward. If the Cavs get Zion, how lame is that going to be for NBA fans? He's going to go to a crappy team that's probably not going to be good for a long time, and they're going to be wasting a lot of his years, and then he'll probably get traded at some point or leave in free agency. How cool would it be for Zion to go to the Kings, and then all of a sudden the Kings are a top 4 team in the West and contending? That would just be super entertaining in my eyes.
This is something we're going to hash out a little bit later in a much longer segment. We got to get out, but Rain Man, thanks for the call, and we'll be in touch with you soon. Coming up next, Tommy Evans got something he wants to get off his chest. I'm not sure what. I told him just, hey, give me something good today because I need you. I want you. I want to hear from you. Tommy Evans and his rant. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Hey, Tutel Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer Tommy is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tutel Nuanez on YouTube.
Tutel Nuanez, live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
If
If you haven't tried Florence Coffee's Madagascar Vanilla, you've got to stop by and check it out. Our all-natural Madagascar Vanilla offers vanilla flavor in its purest form without any artificial flavors or preservatives. Stop by any of our 19 Florence Coffee locations and see for yourself just how delicious Madagascar Vanilla really is.
The best flavor under the big sky. Florence Coffee Company.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
For 61 years, a handshake has meant something at Rangich Brothers RV, offering the best quality, reliability, and savings in Western Montana. And to say thanks, we're celebrating all May long during our May Days anniversary sale. To celebrate, we are offering exclusive deals on Jayco models. Enjoy May Day savings and hit the road in a new Jayco Whitehawk travel trailer, starting at only $279 per month OAC. Plus, enjoy May Day savings like never before on a new Jayco Eagle HT fifth wheel, anniversary priced starting at $29,995. Stop in, save big all May long during our May Days anniversary sale. Only where a handshake means something, Rangich Brothers RV Center.
The splash of launching a new boat, the quiet of a favorite campsite, the noisy fun of a family barbecue on your new deck. Whatever summer sounds like to you, make it happen with a personal loan from Farmers State Bank. 9 locations to serve you, or start the loan application process online at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Everybody knows that high school sports generate suspense, excitement, and drama.
They also generate higher grade point averages, stronger work habits, and greater self-esteem.
Everybody knows that high school sports give us more value for our entertainment dollar.
They also give us leaders committed to strengthening communities right here in Montana. The true value of playing sports in school can't be measured in wins and losses or dollars and cents. Studies show that participation in sports, along with other extracurricular activities, is one of the best ways to teach leadership, cooperation, accountability, and other invaluable life skills. Don't just stand on the sidelines. Encourage the young people you know to get in the game. When you do, you'll be helping them get ahead in life. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Montana High School Association and the Montana Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Welcome back. Tutel Nuanez, 129 ESPN Missoula. Ryan Tutel, he's still out. He's in the Philippines. He's on the other side of the world. But I'm here. Colter Nuanez, broadcasting to you live. Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, as well as Highway 83 in Sealy, or online at kurtzpolaris.com. You want to check us out online, 129ESPN.com. That's where you find the stream. The stream is presented by Opportunity Bank. Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. Want to get us on Facebook? Facebook.com/ESPN Missoula. Got some details on our giveaway, which stay tuned right here. I'm about to give you the word of the day for today. Or you can also check out SkylineSportsMT.com. Got a couple of good podcasts up there for you as well. If you've been paying attention, well, good for you. Giving away 2 seats on a whitewater rafting trip any day of your choice through Adventure Missoula. It's good for June, July, or August, whichever you fancy. But they'll take you on a nice little adventure. Should be fun. And all you got to do is recognize the word of the day and text the word of the day to us. Text the number 200-8184. That's 200-8184. Today, the word of the day is paddle. Like you're paddling up the river. Word of the day, paddle. Text it to 200-8184. Get yourself entered into the Adventure Missoula Whitewater Raft giveaway. Tommy, I want to let you rant, but I also know we're already up against it. So what do you think? Should we do it or should we go to the other side? What's the best producer trick here?
You're going to stick to your clock. We're going to keep the affiliates of this show happy, and we will continue with the content at the appropriate time, Coulter.
Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 getting started with whatever Tommy Evans wants to talk about. And we'll also be joined his Tutel Nuanez debut, Jason Alvin, the new voice of the Montana State Bobcats.
What?
Good news. Missoulians can finally move into what we love best, being outside. Garden City Paint and Glass can help you get a head start on all those outside home improvement projects. Now is also a great time to start getting a jump on cracked windows and broken screens. Enjoy up to 25% off select products. And be sure to watch for PPG rebates to help the job along. Look good, stay comfortable, and keep energy costs down at Garden City Paint and Glass. 3217 Brooks or 549-0608.
Hey, Tutel Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer Tommy is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tutel Nuanez on YouTube.
Tutel Nuanez live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube.
We ate a lot of steaks before we came up with the Montana Club's Private Reserve Cut Angus. It's as good a steak as you're going to get. Our Private Reserve Cut Angus is specially cut for us. And with our custom seasoning, it has a flavor that's absolutely incomparable. We're confident that it will satisfy the most discriminating steak customer for an unrivaled steak experience. Real Montana, real food. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Hey folks, the best season of the year is upon us. That's right, it's tax return season, and there's one place to have the most fun and make that refund check stretch further than anywhere else, Selway Armory. Selway Armory has the largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories of anywhere around, and they have the expertise to go with it. It's not everywhere that you can shop local and save money, but Selway Armory will meet or beat any box store price, and your money stays in Montana. It's tax return time, so get more bang for your buck at Selway Armory. Visit online at selwayarmory.com.
When you need a bank to help ramp up your savings strategy, look to your local bank, Opportunity Bank of Montana. Build confidence in your financial future when you create a rainy day cushion or take care of the nest egg you already have. Opportunity Bank offers options from basic savings to money market accounts and certificates with competitive rates. There's nothing like the feeling of progress, so let's get started today. Come see us at Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com. Member FDIC.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh of the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, what are people left dealing with after an accident?
Well, quite a few things, actually. We see people that are in pain. They still need to get to work. They need to raise their kids, and now they have to take time to go see doctors and other healthcare providers. They're frustrated with working with the insurance companies and getting the runaround. We'll take on the burden of dealing with the insurance companies so you can get the best settlement possible and get back to your life.
Find your advocate online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening, Coulter Nuanez. For the third straight year, Montana State is the champions of the Brawl of the Wild series over the Grizzlies. The Bobcats finished the 2018-2019 season with an 11-6 record in the series, a head-to-head competition with the Grizz that accounts for matchups between the two rival schools in sports they both sponsor. Montana State and the Grizz split in volleyball, but the Bobcats swept in men's and women's cross country, earned a third straight win in football, and swept in women's basketball, men's tennis, indoor track and field, and golf. The Grizz earned wins in women's tennis, outdoor track and field, and men's basketball. UM won the first three Brawl of the Wild trophies beginning in 2013-2014, but Montana State has won the last three. Missoula will host the Montana Class B State Golf Tournament for the first time ever, beginning today and finishing Wednesday at the Ranch Club Golf Course in Missoula. Missoula Loyola senior Bucky Crippen, he shot a 65 today, thanks to Sean Rainey for that score. And he is looking to defend his Class B title. He's the fourth member of the Crippen family to win a Class B state title. The Rams also considered the favorites, and with a 65, they're probably well out in front. And finally, Cameron Hilborn headed home to the capital city. The standout three-sport athlete from Helena High led the Bengals to state titles in soccer and basketball before playing hoops last season at Montana State. Tuesday, she announced she will transfer back home and will play basketball at Carroll College.
Is it the withering of tired leaves, also neatly woven around that laurel wreath, or the collapsing of a history of victories getting live now by
Tutel Nuanez, 129 ESPN Missoula. Hour number 2. Going to have a couple fun guests joining me here. Ryan Tutel, he's out. He's in the Philippines for the rest of the week. He'll be back next week. Colter Nuanez in the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, or Highway 83 in Sealy. You can also check them out, kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the first hour, check it out on the podcast. Podcast available on iTunes or the TuneIn Radio app, or you can find it on Spotify, find it on your various podcasting platforms, or you can find it on the station website, 1029ESPN.com. Podcast available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Wingate in Missoula is a hotel that really takes care of their regular business guests. They offer great year-round rates for corporate travelers with the bonus of extra Wyndham Rewards points, and they upgrade regular business guests for no charge whenever possible. But even though they offer a great value and cool perks, their regular guests will tell you it's the service that keeps them coming back. Give Kim or Alicia a call and find out what they can do to help you with your business travel needs. Or if you just need to have a business meeting, they got great spaces out there at the Wingate by Wyndham as well. Wingate by Wyndham in Missoula, making you feel at home even when you're not. Tommy, I know you're hot. I know you want to go, and I know you want to talk, but I think we got to get to Jason Alvin. Maybe we'll save this for the last segment. Maybe we'll save it for later on this week. I put us far behind with my pre-recorded interviews, and it's just how I roll. So if you don't mind, we could just wait, and maybe we'll get the voice of the Bobcats on here instead. What do you think?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just sit here and implode in absolute white-hot rage by myself. That's fine. No problem.
Oh, my God. Tommy, how many cups of coffee you had today?
Well, I just went out and made another one in the break, so I'm on my 4th cup today.
Very good.
Yeah.
We need to get you on the espresso. Maybe the tea. I don't know.
Well, the problem is every time I have espresso, I go absolutely bazonkers. I had a quad shot the other day, and I was in the best mood I had ever been in, probably.
Ever.
And, my bad. And so I thought, something's wrong here. And I feel much more normal now today without the quad shot.
Well, Tommy, I'm always just worried about you and your caffeine consumption, but I know we'll both make it through.
Dude, you don't got to be worried about my caffeine consumption. What the world needs to be worried about is your lack of caffeine consumption and ability to judge me for mine.
No, I'm not judging you at all. I just want you to be living your best life, you know?
Dude, I am living my best life. I'm sucking down coffee in summertime. Things are good.
Love it. Let's give Jason a call. I'll give a little intro while you're giving him a call. Alvin, he's been with Montana State for 3 years now. He's been the director of operations for Tricia Binford on her staff, as well as being the voice of the women's basketball team. And he was the color commentator for Bobcat football last year. He's a 2002 graduate of Northern Colorado, finished his master's degree in athletic administration at Idaho State. So he's worked at a couple other schools in the Big Sky, knows women's basketball as well as anybody I know in the conference. We have definitely had some long conversations debating some of our all-time greats in the league. But now Jason Alvin steps into a pretty prestigious role. He's the new voice of the Bobcats, taking over for Jay Sanderson, and that's been a role that's been filled by some pretty legendary guys in the state of Montana, including Chris Atterbury and probably the one everybody remembers the most, the golden voice, Dean Alexander. So exciting for Jason. I know he'll do a great job. He's done a great job with all his different endeavors with Montana State so far.
Jason Line 2.
And be excited to get him on the show. And without further ado, Rangich Brothers RV Hotline, we welcome in Jason Alvin, the new voice of the Bobcats. I haven't talked to you in a little while, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Colter, how about yourself?
Very good, very good. I'm glad we got a chance to finally get you on the show after, you've been involved with Montana State women's basketball for a couple years, and after you guys went to the NCAA tournament, I know you and Julian and myself, we had maybe the Men of Bobcat Women's Basketball podcast planned out, and we never really got around to it because everybody's just been so busy. But happy to wrap a little bit about Montana State sports and Big Sky sports with you. So first of all, congratulations on the new job, the new voice of the Bobcats. A huge role to fill, a very prestigious role to fill, but must be very exciting for you and your family. So just tell us about kind of how this last couple months has gone for you and what you think of your new job.
Well, obviously, it's been kind of a whirlwind. I've got to thank Trish Benford and Jeff Choate and Leon and Clint Pacini all for, believing in me and being able to, balance the perils of the director of operations role with the new opportunity with Montana State football and expanding that role. As you mentioned, I've been with them as a sideline reporter for 2 years and the color commentator last year, but now taking the reins and really looking forward to getting out there and meeting a bunch of people, but obviously putting a quality product together that continues to establish the bar that has been set for broadcast for Montana State athletics, and really looking forward to this season because Montana State, as we know as a team, trending in the right direction right now there for the football program under fourth-year head coach Jeff Choate.
It's an interesting job because the play-by-play guys for any school is going to come with a lot of prestige, a lot of pressure, a lot of brand name recognition. But in the state of Montana, especially because of the guys that preceded you in this job, as well as just the fact that it's a rural state, you still have a ton of people that are listening to these broadcasts for on game day on the radio. Do you feel any of that weight on your shoulders now, kind of taking over for some of the guys that have come before you?
Well, now that you mention it, of course, that has obviously been one thing that for me, it is a prestigious job. I don't take it lightly that I've been kind of given the opportunity to take these reins and run. And Dean Alexander is a guy that was fantastic. I still get to work with Dan Davies, who's been on the broadcast for 25, 30 some years, and so there's a lot of history with this job. And again, I don't take it lightly. I'm trying to work through some things to make sure I want to get things primed and ready to go. So I've already been in communication with Zach Mackey, who's coming in to fill the color role and the men's basketball role here for us. And we've already been discussing things on how we want to, take the football broadcast, what we want to do to change things up, go a different route, make them better. That's the goal. Obviously, my inbox is open for people that want to reach out. And, my job is to make Montana State football sound the best they can be and really provide a different look and maybe be able to get a little bit more insight onto a lot of things with, being in the field house each and every day and working is kind of that dual role as well.
Working in media like I have and covering the Big Sky Conference since 2006, I've been around a lot of different media people and play-by-play guys, broadcasters, and all the things, but I've never been around a guy that has had sort of the dual role that you've had these last couple of years here at Montana State. Director of Operations, so you're involved directly with the women's basketball program at Montana State, while also being the play-by-play guy, so you get to kind of see it from both sides. You get to be around the coaching staff a lot. You get to be around the players a tremendous amount, and maybe on a different side of things than a lot of play-by-play guys are. A lot of play-by-play guys, they get to be close to the team, but maybe not from a logistical standpoint like you were as the director of ops. And I know you took a lot away from that, but how much, first of all, just take us kind of through that role, how challenging that was, but some of the perks of it also, and maybe some of the things that you learned and how that kind of helped you in your broadcasting career, kind of having the administrative and athletic side of things on your plate as well.
Well, you're absolutely right, Colter. It's a job where with being so close to the team, having the access that I have, I'm at practice every day. I get to see kind of the game plan go in and get set up and how we want to attack certain teams. And that helps your broadcast. Any little thing that you can take away from a Monday or a Tuesday practice that you can throw into a broadcast is always beneficial. You get to see how the kids prepare. You get to see, and you get to know them on a personal level too, and their preparation and what they go through to make Montana State basketball great and to go out there and perform every night. It's not easy. They're still taking classes and they're still studying on planes and all this stuff. So again, I'm fortunate to work with them and kind of get to tell their stories through, the lens of basketball.
You've been in the Big Sky Conference for a long time. You're a student at Northern Colorado and got your initial degree there. And then you were at Idaho State getting your master's degree. So you've been at multiple other stops in the Big Sky before landing at Montana State. What do you think overall just of the landscape of the league? It's something that we talk about on this show all the time, the pluses, the minuses, the challenges, the geographic challenges especially. I'm sure that was something that you learned a ton about as the guy that was booking all the trips and all the hotels all over. I mean, talk about the only conference in the United States of America that has 3 time zones in it, no longer with North Dakota out the league, but still massive travel, massive logistical challenges, and you know, a league that has ebbed and flowed and grown, and now it's to the point where there's a lot of controversy just about the size of the league, but also there's a lot of benefit just because of the recruiting footprint and the geographic footprint. So overall, just what do you think of just the state of the Big Sky Conference?
Well, I think it's in a great place. You mentioned it. It is a vast and expansive range. Now that North Dakota's gone, it's a little bit better, but you still make road trips, and I use road loosely because, you know, you're flying.
Right.
But, you know, you go to Portland and you're going to Sacramento. Those were travel partners for the last 6-7 years. And that's not easy. You play a Thursday night in Portland, 7 p.m. game. You get on a plane the next morning, you fly down to Sacramento, and you get there about 1, 2 in the afternoon. You go straight to practice. You got your meal the night before and all that stuff. And then you're off on it, you know, playing Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. And, you know, a couple weeks later, you're going to NAU in southern Utah. So flying from Bozeman to Denver to Phoenix and then busing up, it's not easy, but it's where it's at. I think the league as a whole, and especially I think this year with the women's basketball, I think was a really big year for this conference with the talent that was in this league. I think you mentioned I've been around this league for a long time, especially women's basketball. So I think it's going on year 11 now, so I'm a full decade in, and you know, there's 5 kids, 6 kids, 7 kids from this year's senior class that if you lined up and took history of players in the Big Sky and you wanted to play a 5-on-5 game, I'd take 5 kids from this year's senior class, and I'd feel pretty good about lining up against anybody else in the Big Sky. That's how deep this year's senior class was, with Michaela Ferenz, the all-time leading scorer now in the conference, Taylor Pierce, who one of 5 kids to hit over 400 threes in her career in women's basketball. Oh, one of the other ones, her teammate Michaela Ferenz, Ashley Bolston, Sydney Riley, and Courtney West. That threesome that took that team to the NCAA tournament. Savannah Smith is an electric player, and so I think right now for women's basketball wise, I think the league's in a great place. There's a lot of talent in this league, and it's a very difficult league to win. And I think you've seen that, you know, over the course of my 10 years here. It's been very difficult. I've been a part of 5 Big Sky championship games in one way or another. I've only seen 1 championship, so it's not an easy thing to win, and so you've got to take advantage of those opportunities when you get them. But overall, I think the league as a whole, football-wise, Eastern Washington was in the national championship game, and I really think gave North Dakota State all they could handle. There were a couple opportunities for them to really, make some plays, but a couple penalties here and there really kind of cost them early in that game, and they made a late run. But I think the league's in a great place. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent comebacks football-wise that will be fun to watch here come August 31st.
Tutel Nuanez, 129 ESPN Missoula, as well as statewide SWX television and worldwide on our YouTube channel that Tommy Evans has got set up for us, live streaming every home that has the internet. He is Jason Alvin, the voice of the Bobcats, joining us on the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. Before we get in, I want to break down some football stuff with you, Jason, but before we get into that, I got to ask you one more question about your role as the director of ops. I think that everybody knows about the geographic challenges and the travel challenges in the Big Sky broadly. They know that Portland State and Sacramento State as travel partners, those are a ways away. They know that Southern Utah and Northern Arizona, you're going to have to take a bus. It's going to be a little bit of a tedious trip. But I think that there's a lot of the details that people don't really necessarily know. This isn't a charter flight league by and large. It's mostly flying commercial. This isn't eating at Ruth Chris Steakhouse or getting room service. A lot of times it's Chick-fil-A instead. So what are some of the things that it goes into being a director of operations, and what are some of the things maybe people don't know about mid-major college athletics when it comes to just the logistics and the travel?
Well, you mentioned it. There's a lot of times we're at the Bozeman Airport at 5:15 in the morning because we've got a 6:15 flight. Now, the nice thing is we can get there an hour ahead of time and get our bags checked. And the Bozeman Airport does a great job of getting us through and getting us squared away so we don't have to show up there. They'll get there 2 hours early before your flight, all that stuff. But, there are a lot of times when we're flying again to Phoenix, when we're going into Portland or Sacramento, we've got to get an early flight because there's not a lot of options that make sense. So, the kids miss the day of school. We're up early. We fly in. We try to get a healthy, sensible lunch, and then, we try to do a lot of pasta stuff night before games. We work with Brittany Patera, our registered dietitian, to kind of try to get what's best for the kids and keep them fueled for their peak performance on the road, which, again, isn't easy because, some kids, want to eat one thing or they're comfortable eating one thing before games, and that's just, how each kid is. And so you've got to kind of balance that with, again, feeding them and feeding them well. Again, it's not Ruth Chris, but I think you would ask, any one of our kids, I think they eat pretty well on the road. There's a few favorite stops that we make along the way that you don't get here in Bozeman that we can take advantage of. So we try to hit those places up. And I'll always I'll go out on a limb every now and again and try to find some local places that a little hole in the wall. So we're not always eating Olive Garden or Johnny Carino's or those sort of things. So I try to balance it up and make sure that they're fed well and we can perform optimally, and none of that has to do with any of the nutrition aspect of things.
Jason Alvin joining us, the new voice of the Montana State Bobcats. And Jason, I want to talk a little bit about football. You have had multiple roles in the broadcasting of the Montana State football team so far. Sideline guy, then in the booth, helping out with some color commentary, and now you're going to be the play-by-play guy. So, first of all, a lot of excitement, a lot of momentum around Jeff Choate's program, and I actually had Kane Ione and Bobby Daly, shared some interviews with them earlier on. First hour of this show, if you missed that, you can go check it out on the podcast. Podcast is available on our station website, 1029ESPN.com, as well as on all the various podcast platforms. But, Jason, just broadly, what do you think of just the state of the Montana State football program right now? I know you were able to attend at least some of the spring ball practices. What were your impressions coming out of spring?
I think there's the opportunity for a really special season here in Bozeman. I know a lot of people will say that, but when you look at it as a whole, you look at the schedule and a couple teams that they don't have to face. They don't get Eastern Washington. They don't get Weber State. Things shape up very well. Now, again, you're going to have to play 12 games, and you're going to have to stay healthy, and all these variables have to go into things. But this team took a huge step forward last year by making the playoffs. Everybody knows what happened at the end of the season. They had to win 3 straight games to really have a chance. And when you're looking at second and third and goal from the half-yard line with your season on the line to come up and make the plays that they did to earn that shot and get a home playoff game for the first time since 2012 and carry that momentum into this season. There's a lot to look forward to. There's a lot of talent coming back, especially on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive line is going to be a strength. The big question is everybody around the state of Montana is asking is quarterback position. And, you had Troy Anderson go in there and break the single season touchdown rushing record with 21 as a sophomore. And, there you heard Kane Ione earlier talking about it. Who's going to win in the steel cage match between him and Matt Miller, right. But to have the services of Troy, but Troy's going to do what's best for this team. He's a selfless guy like that, and wherever he plays, he's going to be an impact guy. We all know that.
All eyes will be on the quarterback battle. You got Troy Anderson. You got maybe Chris Murray if he can get his academics straightened out. I know they were optimistic about that coming out of spring ball. Got a guy like Tucker Rovig who had an opportunity to maybe seize the starting job last year, let it go by the wayside. He's been very open in talking about sort of his disappointment in himself and sort of the loss of confidence that he now has seemed to regain. There was a scene that I actually led one of my stories with at SkylineSportsMT.com. It was a miscommunication on a block. A corner came off the edge during the Sunny Hall and spring game and got a touch sack on Tucker Rovig, and he was just lighting up his teammates on the sidelines after that. And I thought that was a great thing. I thought that was a very big step in terms of the confidence and maturity. Tucker Rovig knows where guys are supposed to be. He seems to be able to command the huddle, and that's something that Jeff Choate has wanted so much is that quarterback who can assume a leadership role, get in and out of the huddle, get to the line, get the right play called, all the intangible elements of being a quarterback. And then throwing a guy like Casey Bauman, who has as much upside and as much athletic potential and as much arm talent as anybody you'll find in the Big Sky Conference. It's just a matter of putting all the X's and O's together. So it's going to be so interesting because Matt Miller, he only has the 5 games calling plays under his belt. Where are they going to go? What sort of offense are they going to run? Are they going to build an offense around the guy that is the starting quarterback? To me, it's kind of a chicken or an egg scenario. You kind of have to find your quarterback to build a system around him. But how do you get a system locked in without having your quarterback? You do have a bunch of guys that have a lot of potential, but besides Troy Anderson, none that are really proven winning games. Chris Murray, he's proven to win Cat Grizz games for sure. And during the second half of his sophomore year, I thought he was better than a lot of people gave him credit for, but still sort of a polarizing and up and down guy. Watching the quarterback battle at Montana State will be the thing that every one of us in the media is going to be watching come fall camp. What are just your general thoughts on the quarterback battle at Montana State?
You're 100% correct with the chicken or the egg question right there, because in my eyes, if Chris Murray or Troy Anderson ends up having to be the starting quarterback, your offense is drastically different than if it's Casey Bauman or Tucker Rovig. And Tucker Rovig is a guy that him and Casey Bauman both looked the part of a quarterback. Tucker put in a ton of work once he got injured this season in the weight room. He is bulked up and has added weight to his 6'5" frame. So, already had a strong arm. We saw what he could do against Wagner with the 310 yards in that contest. Looked really, really comfortable in the pocket. He's got explosive receivers. I mentioned the weight room. It looks like Kevin Cassis has lived there in the offseason. He's bulked up as well. And he's put on some weight. I had to do a double take when I saw him in there the other day because, you think slot receiver and quick guy. He has put on some mass and really taken it seriously now that he's the senior captain for this team. Travis Johnson on the outside, a guy that makes plays, Lance McCutcheon as well. But it's going to come down to who, stylistically, what do you want to do? Now, maybe it's a thing that we've seen it a little bit with going all the way back to Jeff Choate's first year with Tyler Brugman and Chris Murray, kind of depending on what quarterback's in the game, this is the offense we're going to run. Maybe that's something that they throw in. Maybe they don't have to choose what kind of style they want. Maybe they can have 2 or 3 different styles. And you know what? Okay, we're going to throw a backfield of Chris Murray, Isaiah Alphonse, and Troy Anderson out on the field right now with Travis Johnson and Kevin Cassis at the receivers. There's 5 guys that can throw a football right there. What kind of play are you going to run there? How are you going to defend it? $1 million question, and it's the question that we're going to ask all summer. It's the question that we're all going to be the most interested to see here coming August 7th when everybody reports back and football gets rocking and rolling.
Can't wait. Should be a fascinating fall. Jason Alvin, voice of the Bobcats, will be collaborating a ton throughout the next months and years. Congratulations again on your new job, my friend. Thanks so much for being with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it, sir. Look forward to working with you this year.
Jason Alvin, new voice of the Montana State Bobcats. Congratulations to him on his new gig, and excited to have a new guy to get on the show. Great debut by him. On the other side, a guy that's been on this show plenty of times, Anthony Knockreiner from the Knock On Sports up in Kalispell, KGEZ. Talk a little high school softball, a little prep track and field, maybe whatever else we want. Tutel Nuanez, 129 ESPN Missoula.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes, too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Alpine Touch has been providing you with the distinct seasonings you know and love for decades. Now, Alpine Touch has something to help you unleash the freshness of all the delicious flavors you need to spice up any meal. Check out Alpine Touch's new coarse grinds, unleashing the fresh taste of the garlic pepper or all-purpose seasonings to please any nose or taste bud. Coarse grinds can be purchased by the pound at retail locations around the state or at alpinetouch.com. Use the code ESPN20 at checkout to get 20% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Down come who? Pump it up. Pump it up.
What goes perfectly with a crisp and delicious salad? Energy drinks, of course. At Town Pump, you can grab your Bang and Rain 16-ounce energy drinks, 2 for $4. And don't forget your greens with a chef salad in the deli, only $4.49. Town Pump Food Stores, proud to be part of our community.
Right down the road, oh yeah.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate.
It's time to get geared up for fly fishing season at the Kingfisher's Spring Runoff Sale. From May 11th through the 17th, save up to 30% on in-stock fly rods, waders, boots, reels, flies, and anything else you need to keep catching you fish all season long. Don't see the item you want? No problem. They can special order whatever it is you're after. Snack on coffee and donuts while checking out the latest products from all the top shelf vendors. If your gear closet is looking sparse and your fly selection isn't what you'd like it to be, it's time to load up the Spring Runoff Sale at the Kingfisher.
Some so-called sports bars, you spend so much time fighting to see the TV, you're better off just staying home. Others show the game, but a basket of stale rye chips is not exactly your idea of a good game grub. At the Desperado, you get front row seats to every single spring baseball and NASCAR event, plus all the spring NBA and NHL postseason action. And with juicy burgers, ice-cold brews, and the best wings in town, you'll leave the Desperado satisfied whether your team won or lost. The Desperado Sports Tavern, where the emphasis is sports, food, and good times on South Russell, across from the Y.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening. Colter Nuanez, 129 ESPN Missoula, SWX Montana. For the third straight year, Montana State is the champions of the Brawl Wild Series over Montana. The Bobcats finished the 2018-19 season with an 11-6 record in the series, a head-to-head competition with the Grizzlies that accounts for matchups between the two schools in the sports they both sponsor. Montana State and the Grizz split in volleyball, but the Bobcats swept in men's and women's cross country, earned a third straight win in football, and swept in women's basketball, men's tennis, indoor track and field, and golf. The Grizz earned wins in women's tennis, outdoor track and field, and men's basketball. won the first three Brawl of the Wild trophies, but Montana State has won the last three. Missoula hosting the Class B state golf tournament for the first time ever today, and defending champion Missoula Loyola senior Bucky Crippen, he shot a 65 to take the first day lead. He's gunning for his second straight Class B title, as well as to become the fourth member of his family to win a state tournament. He actually won one last year, but the Crippens dominated Class B golf for a long time. The Rams also the favorites to win the team title. And finally, Cameron Hilborn, she's headed home to the capital city. The standout three-sport athlete from Helena High led the Bengals to state titles in soccer and basketball before playing hoops at Montana State last season. Tuesday, she announced she will transfer to Carroll College to play basketball. Hilburn, she competed at the Big Sky Outdoor Championships in the pole vault last week. Tutel Nuanez, 129 ESPN Missoula. Keep on marching. Ryan Tutel, other side of the globe. He's probably sweating. He's probably melting. And we're missing him, but not that much. Colter Nuanez in studio, broadcasting to you live from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, or Highway 83 in Sealy. You can also find them online at kurtzpolaris.com. Coming to you live on the radio airwaves, as well as SWX Montana, around the state of Montana, greatest state in the union, if I don't say so myself. You can also find us worldwide on Tutel Nuanez YouTube channel. Go check it out. Tommy's got the live stream rocking and rolling. Need you to hit subscribe. Need you to do some rating for us, some comments, whatever you want to do. You can engage around the globe. Tutel Nuanez live stream. If you want to find us online, you can check us out, 1029ESPN.com. You can also find us Facebook.com/ESPN Missoula. You can also find us SkylineSportsMT.com. Got a couple new podcasts up there. We're doing our annual Grizzlies by the Numbers and Bobcats by the Numbers, where we break down the football rosters for the Bobcats and the Grizzlies 1 through 99. Quick hitting tidbits about each and every player for both the Grizzlies, and the Bobcats. Got the first editions up, number 1 through 33 for each team. SkylineSportsMT.com. Thanks to Andrew Houghton and Brooks Nuanez for collaborating on those. It's always fun to do, and thanks so much to Town Pump and Subway Armory for sponsoring it. Without further ado, we go to the Rankich Brothers RV Hotline one more time. Welcome in another good friend of the show, Anthony Knockreiner from the Knock On Sports KGEZ up in Kalispell. Anthony, how you doing, my friend?
Good, Coulter. Hey, listen, I got to give you guys a lot of credit. That's some pretty good opening music right there. Even I was bumping to that.
It's all Tommy Evans. Tommy Evans makes the world go round around here. It's great having a musically minded producer who's also an exceptional radio DJ.
Ooh, all right. Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I just roll with the classics, a little AC/DC, little Dr. Dre, just kind of go with the classics.
Hey, that forgot about Dre that you always intro me with, though. That's some good stuff, too. I like that. I'm always into it.
Absolutely, man. Hey, listen, you can't go wrong with little Dr. Dre. I don't care what era.
No doubt. One of my all-time favorites. Well, Anthony, I want to talk a little high school softball. I want to talk a little high school track and field. But first of all, the big high school news of the day. By the way, this is our Prep Extra segment presented to us by the Farmers State Bank. Farmers State Bank, best in Montana since 1907. The Bozeman High School scene has been an interesting debate scene for quite some time, because dating back all the way to when I was in, not so much when I was in high school, but when my brother was in high school about 10 years back, everybody kept wondering, okay, Bozeman High School has more than 2,000 kids. They got more than 2,200 kids. When's Bozeman going to get a second high school? It was the largest single high school town in the state. It comes with a little bit of a caveat because Belgrade's just down the road, but Belgrade also happens to be the largest Class A high school in the state. So basically you had a 40,000-plus person town with just the two high schools, and it kept growing. Bozeman Senior High School has multiple different buildings. It's like a full campus, and it provides a huge advantage in sports, especially ones that are dependent on enrollment, and Bozeman High has been tremendously good in athletics. Football's been the one sport where maybe they were behind in comparison to the other sports, but then this decade with Troy Purcell at the helm, they've been rolling. They won, I think, 3 state titles this decade, and they've been in the mix otherwise, but everybody's been wondering, when's Bozeman going to split off, get a new high school? And Gallatin High has been approved. They now have named it Gallatin High School, but there's been much debate now then first of all, there was much debate on what are they going to call it. There's a couple other different names that were in the mix, Rocky Mountain High School among them, and they decided on Bozeman Gallatin High, and then they were debating the mascot. And today they announced the mascot is going to be the Raptors. I think that's an ode to the dinosaur culture in Bozeman, the Museum of the Rockies, one of the great dino museums in the world, honestly. Jack Horner, one of the great paleontologists, he's in Bozeman as well as a huge Bozeman presence. And the Raptors, Bozeman Gallatin High Raptors, going to be black and royal blue as their school colors. So, Anthony, just general thoughts on the name. What did you think of just the choice?
I'm all for it. I'm all for a different animal. What I was afraid was we were going to have another bear. Now, listen, I feel like the bear is almost a state animal at this point with how many logos, mascots, and bears are involved in just about how many high schools. So I'm glad to see we went at least with something a little different. I was even hoping maybe for Mountaineer because that's a little bit of a different change. But I'm glad to see Raptor. But I will say I have a concern. As a play-by-play guy, seeing black and royal blue, those numbers better be big because otherwise it's going to be very difficult for a guy like me to try and figure out who's wearing that number because those are two dark colors that, that royal blue is going to have to really pop from that black if they're wearing their home jerseys. Away jerseys I'm not so worried about, but if I got to go to Bozeman, which I'll probably have to do next year, considering Bozeman's coming up here to Flathead this year, I have concerns if I go down there at some point and I can't read the numbers.
That's going to be no good for me because I'm colorblind, so I'm going to be really up a creek. There's no way I'm going to be able to see this stuff. Well, Anthony, let's talk a little high school softball. Just give us a general landscape of Class AA. You call a lot of games for the Flathead Braves in a variety of different sports, but how would you just break down the way that softball is going on the Class AA level right now?
Well, I think if you let's just start out east because I feel like out east is pretty simple. It's Great Falls' show. Great Falls is going to run it. CMR did get them a couple weeks ago, which ended their 33 or 34 game win streak and stopped it there. So, but Great Falls is the clear and cut favorite. I mean, Great Falls is, if you want to describe it, they are the Golden State Warriors in Montana AA softball. And so right now they are the Kings. They're the defending champs. They're going to be really tough to stop. Now, do they have the kind of pitching like they did even the last year, the year before? Not quite. Their pitching is still pretty good, but also you can get them. So very intrigued with what Great Falls. Again, they're the favorite. Again, Skyview, they sit second right now in the East as well. You also have Billings West that sits third. Billings Senior at 7-5, and then CMR is not bad. So it's just between those 5 teams. Butte, Bozeman, not very good. Don't expect much from them. So really, it's Great Falls out east. I don't expect anybody to really challenge them when we get to the divisional tournament this weekend. But then when you talk about the Western Conference, this is a deep conference. Now, similarly, like the East, you got 2 teams that are struggling. That's Big Sky and Flathead. Both programs hopefully will be able to turn around sooner rather than later. But Hellgate's a challenge, even though they're 4-8. Helena is a good softball team. It just depends on you if you catch them on the right day with their pitching. Their pitching isn't as strong as some of the other teams. Capital, and these are the 3 teams I look at that have probably the best chance to knock off Great Falls. It's Capital, who sits at 9-3 right now. You look at Sentinel, who is 13-6 on the season, 10-2 in conference, and then Glacier, who won the Western AA Conference regular season. They're sitting at 16-3, 10-2 in conference, and winners of 11 straight. So here's the deal: if you want the softball scene in plain terms, Great Falls is coming out of the East. The 3 challengers to try and knock them off the state championship podium is probably coming out of the West, and all 3 of them: Glacier, Sentinel, and Capital.
Great Falls side 19-1 this year. Their lone loss to CMR in a crosstown game. But after that 13-8 loss, they have just been routing people. They got a 20-run win over Butte. They got a 12-run win over Skyview. They had a 15-run win over Hellgate. And most recently, they beat Missoula Sentinel 7-0 this past weekend. What makes them so good, Anthony?
That's a great question because, I mean, you look at it from top to bottom, you don't find a weakness. Like I said, this literally is Golden State of softball because when you look at what Great Falls is able to accomplish, looking at their numbers right now, their batting average for the season, for the team, is above 400. You look at some of the other teams, it's really great if you can get into the 350s, the 360s, the 370s as a team. You've got one player in Conway as a senior. She's batting 583. And we're not talking about like 30 plate appearances this season. She's made 81 plate appearances and has a batting average of 583. That's impressive. You've got a Toon, who's a junior. She's batting 554 on the season. Palmer 436. You got Stoll at 404. I mean, the numbers just continue to roll down that are impressive. I mean, you got 3 players essentially, maybe 4, that have above 500 batting averages. And you got a sophomore in Sunchild who's at 524 right now. This team is just so deadly from the batter's box, and it makes it so tough because you really, in softball this year, you don't have a Tristan Achenbach like we saw over the last couple of seasons. There is no dominant pitcher. You have some really good pitchers, but you don't have anybody that's just going to shut the door for 7 straight innings. We just don't have that this year in Montana AA softball. And so Great Falls is capitalizing on that. And when you look at their pitching, at the same time, again, I said not quite as good as years past, but you've got Toon, who's a junior. She's got a 2.25 ERA, 10-1 on the season and 13 appearances. You've got, I don't know how to say her name, so bear with me here. I want to say it's La Roque, I believe. Mm-hmm. She's got a 2.52 ERA, 8-0 on the season. This team just does it so well from so many different aspects. They've got 2 dominant pitchers. You know, if you got 2 really good dominant pitchers, you're definitely in the elite class that year because most teams only have 1 dominant pitcher. And then and especially with the divisional tournament, the way they could play out with possibly playing 2 games in a single day. And when you get to that state tournament as well, you're going to have to try. And if you have a benefit of a second pitcher, throw her out there. So that way your starter and your ace doesn't get tired over the course of a couple of days.
Anthony Knockreiner from KGEZ up in Kalispell. He hosts the Knock On Sports, great sports talk show. So check it out. He's got a podcast as well as some live stream ability. So Check it out if you get a chance. He touches on all corners of the state as often as anybody in the state. Anthony, let's talk a little high school track and field. I know that the big news over the weekend was Evan Todd popping one of the great javelin throws in the country so far this year. He threw it over 208 feet, surpassed Rylan Ort as the Class AA leader, and Evan Todd, a Kalispell Glacier kid who's got a lot of athletic potential across the board. So, first of all, it's got to be a lot of buzz after him hitting that throw, which ranks in the top 5 nationally. But second of all, is there any word on where Evan Todd might go next year? Where are his prospects in terms of college?
Evan Todd's already committed to the University of Montana to throw javelin. So he'll be down in your neck of the woods next year. He'll be throwing the jav, and I'm sure he's going to be just doing an absolutely tremendous job for the Grizz next year as a freshman. I think he can contribute right away considering what he's doing. So Todd is going to be very interesting. I know he also had some football offers, but, and that's the really impressive part, something that, I'm not from Montana, but something that I learned. I mean, how many D1 athletes go more so in the track and field in the spring sport than, say, we even see him during the football season? And that's just really impressive. Evan Todd, though, I mean, here's the deal. As much as I want to say that's great what he did this past weekend, he absolutely did a tremendous job. I'm kind of halfway expecting what's Rylan Ort going to throw now, because those two guys have been battling back and forth, just about every time one gets in front of the other one sees it as a challenge and then throws even farther the next weekend. So seeing those two guys compete this weekend in Helena for the divisional track meet is going to be really interesting. Can Ort beat that throw that Todd just had this past weekend? And what's going to happen next weekend when the state AA track meet is going to be here in Kalispell next week? What's going to be the final tally between those two guys? Who's going to edge out the other? Because that battle between Rylan Ort and Evan Todd has just been so much fun to watch from the javelin pit.
It'll be spectacular to watch. Evan Todd, 208.8 was the official mark this last weekend at the Glacier versus Columbia Falls duel. And Rylan Ort, his top mark this year, 203.2 at the Butte Invite earlier on this month. Those two guys went 1-2 in the javelin a year ago as well. And watching Evan Todd try to defend his championship against Rylan Ort in Kalispell next week, and that's going to be must-see TV. I'm probably going to have to make a drive up to Kalispell and go check that out. That'll be really fun. Hey, Anthony Knockreiner, he's the host of the Knock On Sports on KGEZ up in Kalispell, and joining us via the Rankich Brothers RV phone line. This has been our Prep Extra presented to us by Farmers State Bank. Farmers State Bank, 9 Western Montana locations from the Bitterroot Valley to Missoula to Helena and all the way up to Kalispell. Bank where you live, work, and play. Thanks so much for those guys for being a sponsor of this show. Anthony, appreciate the time, man. I know you got to get to your show, too, and I'm actually going to be on your show tonight, too, so we're tagging in, tagging out. But appreciate the time today, man, and we'll get with you soon.
No problem, Colter. Always appreciate it, man. Hey, don't you worry. I'll be introducing you on my show. We'll just be saying Colter Nuanez from the top ropes after I tag you in.
Hey, can't wait, man. Talk to you soon. Anthony Knockreiner, KGEZ up in Kalispell. Tommy's going to get a little bit of a platform now. We're going to let him finish this thing out in strong fashion. It's a Tuesday. It's Tutel Nuanez, SWX Montana, 102.9 ESPN Missoula.
Hey folks, the best season of the year is upon us. That's right, it's tax return season, and there's one place to have the most fun and make that refund check stretch further than anywhere else, Selway Armory. Selway Armory has the largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories of anywhere around, and they have the expertise to go with it. It's not everywhere that you can shop local and save money, but Selway Armory will meet or beat any box store price, and your money stays in Montana. It's tax return time, so get more bang for your buck at Selway Armory. Visit online at selwayarmory.com.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations, just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce 2 of our best tires ever just in time for summer.
There's our exclusive open range AT that we believe is our quietest, smoothest, and best all-season traction tire ever. Or the Reputation, our exclusive high-mileage premium passenger tire. Get $50 off alignment when you purchase a set of 4 open range AT or Reputation tires. Book an appointment today at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time only. See details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
Springtime is the time to buy a new Polaris off-road vehicle. During the spring sales event, rebates go as high as $1,500 and financing is as low as 3.99%. Live your life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. Whatever you're looking for, now is the time to take your pick from the off-road's best-selling lineup. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $1,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Spring Sales event at Kurtz Polaris. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Recreate the right way with Kurtz Polaris, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Offer valid in U.S. through 5/31/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride. Hey everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Tutel and Nuanez, 129 ESPN Missoula, broadcasting to you live. Kurtz Polaris Studios, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, and Highway 83 in Sealy. Also available online, kurtzpolaris.com. SWX Montana, thanks so much if you're watching statewide. Had a very statewide show today. Talked to Kane Ione and Bobby Daly from the Montana State football team. Sean Rainey called in to give us his solution about fixing the NBA draft lottery. The debut of the new voice of the Montana State Bobcats, Jason Alvin, at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. And then Anthony Knockreiner from KGEZ in Kalispell breaking down the Class AA high school softball race for us, as well as talking a little bit about high school track and field, specifically Evan Todd, Kalispell Glacier standout. Missed anything in the first hour of the show? Check it out on the podcast. Podcast available on the TuneIn radio app or on iTunes. You can also find it at the station website, 1029ESPN.com. Podcast available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. All right, Tommy Evans got 5 minutes. I told you to get ornery. What do you got?
Let's get one thing clear here. I don't know where this came from. I'm feeling good today, man. Euphoric, friendly.
I know. I just like to give you a little bit of an open mic because you're such an entertaining radio personality.
I don't know if that's a compliment or a backhanded comment, Coulter.
No, it's a compliment, I promise. I never tell Ryan anything that nice.
This I can vouch for. Well, I appreciate that. I don't know, man. Life's good. I don't have much for you, man.
Let's talk about the positives then. Okay, all sorts of concerts coming to Missoula this summer. Here at Missoula Broadcasting Company, we have ESPN Radio, which all you fine folks that are listening to me right now are listening to, but we also have the U, 104.5. We also have the Trail, 103.3. We also have Jack FM, 105.9.
Do you do some voice work in some capacity on all 4 of those, or how many do you work on?
It just depends on what kind of clients I can sell, what kind of ads I get on the radio, but I do currently have voice work on all 4 of them, which is fun.
Wow.
It's good stuff. But we had our promo meeting today, and we have bunch of good stuff going on. Listen to the Trail because right now they got all sorts of ticket giveaways. Red Ants Pants Festival. We got the Brandy Carlisle and Emmylou Harris show over at the Gorge. They're giving away tickets for that. Coming up soon, we got Bon Iver tickets. There's also Little Feat, Rain, and Chromeo ticket giveaways coming up in the next few weeks. On the U, we got a great promotion going on. You can win a wine fridge from Fred's Appliance, and you also get a $100 wine experience from Warden's Market. They could go down and you can pick out all the wine you ever wanted. And, of course, we got a great giveaway going on right here, too, ESPN Missoula. Adventure Missoula. Going to give 2 people a whitewater rafting trip. You can use it in June, July, or August. All you got to do is text the number 200-8184. That's 200-8184 each day the next 5 days with the word of the day. Today's word of the day, it's paddle. So give us a text, 200-8184. Word of the day is paddle. But all sorts of other great concerts coming to Missoula. I'm excited for Bela Fleck and the Flecktones. I think they're awesome. I'm excited for Incubus. Beyond belief excited for Incubus. Beyond belief excited for Gary Clark Jr. Got some tickets to Iration today. What concert are you most excited for this summer?
Jackson Brown.
Woo!
You going out to Jackson? Are you a fan?
You know, I'm a little bit lukewarm on Jackson Brown. It's not that I dislike him whatsoever. I enjoy Jackson Brown. I'm a big Bruce Springsteen guy, and I think Jackson Brown is kind of Bruce Springsteen light, but I'm sure it'll be a great concert. Why is that the one that's number one in your rankings?
I just think Jackson is one of the all-time great American artists that is, at least in my sort of age group, entirely underrated, if acknowledged whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, those songs are in some of the greatest movies of all time.
Totally.
I mean, total classics. The songs are truly, really and truly timeless. And I think that Jackson Brown's successes have been washed away by the likes of Bruce and so on. But, you know, Jackson Brown wrote a lot of those songs for the Eagles that they still get credit for as being one of the, you know, greatest selling bands of all time. Jackson Brown wrote those songs, you know, and now he's just like hanging out, doing some charity stuff, drinking decaf, playing in Missoula.
The most interesting part about Jackson Brown is that Jackson Brown has certainly some very famous songs of his own. But Jackson Brown's most famous songs are for, you know, the Lovin' Spoonful, and, you know, he wrote some songs for the Allman Brothers. He wrote some songs for the Eagles. He wrote some songs for Joan Baez, Linda Ronstadt, the Byrds, on down the line. And I think sometimes he doesn't get enough credit for it. So I do agree with that. It's always fascinating to me when some of the best songs that someone writes are actually sung by someone else.
That's where the most money is in music.
No doubt.
Did you hear that Crosby's coming to town? David Crosby?
Ooh, that'd be good. Are you a Crosby, Stills, and Nash fan?
Are you kidding me? A piece of Woodstock coming to Missoula? Yeah. I won't miss it.
That sounds great. Do we have a date for that yet?
We do, but I don't know it offhand. But stay tuned to the Trail 103.3. Shameless plug for concert updates. And when you think concert tickets, folks, think the Trail. There's my plug.
Exactly. There's no shameless promotion around here, Tommy. The Trail's the greatest place in the world to get tickets. We got so many tickets on the Trail, and the U for that matter. And right, we might even have some tickets coming up for you right here on ESPN too. I'm lobbying for that. But
tickets to watch Tommy thwart Coulter with a paddle. Dial in, folks.
200-8184, word of the day. Paddle. We got all sorts of stuff for you guys. Don't worry. We're going to keep giving you all the free stuff to make sure you keep listening to me while Ryan Tootell's away. But thanks to everybody for being a part of the show today. Tomorrow, Tucker Sargent is illustrious return to the studio. I think it's actually going to be the first time he's ever been on SWX television. So instead of a Tootell and Nuanez, we'll have a Sargent and Nuanez. Should be fun. 129 ESPN Missoula.
She's got to be somebody.